give us the knowledge and wisdom to make the right decisions for our town, for our citizens, that we can move forward in the right way. Where you just lay your hand over our citizens, Lord, with all the sickness going around, that you would just protect and heal each and every one of them. Forgive us for where we failed you. I pray and ask you thanks in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
We welcome you tonight. Mr. Laverne, would you show that we do have a quorum? We ask that the board look at the agenda for approval of additions and deletions. Mr. Chris Johnson, do we have some additions?
We have two additions, if I may, so request, and one deletion. You have in your agenda packet an updated COVID policy statement for the town. We had one adopted last fall. This is an update based on the most recent CDC guidelines. While it was in your packet, we would ask that you give consideration to formally adopting it. Second, after the agenda was prepared last week, we received a request from Chickasaw Electric for a resolution in support of a grant application they're preparing. We have drafted a resolution, the town attorneys reviewed it. We provided you a copy of that. We'd ask that be added to the agenda. And then we would ask that ordinance 2201 be deferred until your February meeting.
Mr. Mount?
Mr. Mayor, under Roman numeral 8, sub B, ordinance 2127, I would ask that item be removed. We now know that it is the request of the property owner that they want all 7 parcels included in that process.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to just take B down.
Yes, sir, and I have spoken with their attorney, and he is aware of our request to remove tonight.
Okay.
So B and C would both be deferred to February?
Correct. And then, of course, C would be by resolution, even though I know that makes no sense, but that's what the General Assembly,
Instead of ordinance, it's a resolution.
The zone?
to annex.
Yes, no, we'll take that one off, yes.
Right.
So B couldn't be amended?
It could be, but I would like to have the opportunity to spend a little time looking at all of that area and then comparing it to the plan of services where I can actually come back, unless the board is prepared to address. I don't even know all of the parcel numbers at this point.
No, I would not be prepared if you wasn't prepared.
Is that 0196?
Oh, it's on that side road.
Old 196.
Okay, so we're deferring ordinance 2127 and ordinance 2201. Both of those we're pulling out tonight. Okay. All right. Any other changes? If not, I would entertain a motion from the board when you're ready.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Case. All in favor? All right, I'll ask you to look at pull your minutes out and we'll look at the correction moving on the meetings to special meeting from the December 9th, 2021 meeting. We'll look those over. I'll take a motion when you're ready.
To accept as written. Accept.
All right, have a motion from Mr. Duncan, have a second from Mr. Fisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving to B, regular meeting minutes from December 16th, 2021. Take a motion when you're ready.
Call for a vote.
Have a motion from Mr. Yates, have a second.
Yes.
Have a second from Mr. Fisher, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving to C, special meeting from January 10th. Take a motion when you review the minutes.
Call for the vote.
Mr. Cates, motion for Mr. Cates, have a second?
Second.
Have a second for Mr. Duncan, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
At this point in our meeting, we do invite citizen comments. The comments are open to any Oakland citizens to be heard on items and concerns that are not included on this agenda. Citizens are to be recognized by a chair and come to the front of the room before speaking. Each speaker shall state their name and address for the record. The mayor and board aldermen shall make no decisions or consideration of actions of citizens' comments, except to refer the matter to the town manager for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for mayor and board of aldermen's consideration at a later date. Speakers are limited to limit their comments to 3 minutes unless otherwise allowed by the chair. Speakers shall limit their comments to one subject. Do we have anybody wish to speak tonight? Mr. Hummel. Hummel, I'll get it right in a minute.
You shall.
Debbie Hummel, The Gardens. I just wanted to just take a minute, it was about the water. I did send an email to each of the aldermen regarding research that me and Debbie Couch had done and about the cap fee, about instead of just eliminating the $18 to get the low-hanging fruit from the water, capping it off for those 4 months, that perhaps we doubled it or even raised it to $40. And that would capture a lot of money from that, rather than just eliminating it right now. And I thank the aldermen for responding, the ones that did, that instead of just ripping that Band-Aid off and then getting rid of it, I think that if we raised it up even to $40, you're gonna capture a lot of that, and then we could see how much money we really got from it, and then at a later date, we could eliminate it. But I would recommend that. I hope you take that into consideration. I do want to give a big shout out to the 2 aldermen that did respond, Vice Mayor Sutton and Jeff Fisher. Y'all both responded to the email quickly. It was very detailed and very good points. I'm sorry the other 3 aldermen decided to ignore it, but thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak tonight? Okay, we'll move on in. I have no comments tonight. I do hope that all of you will pay close attention to the contests for city and county government that are open. And if you are interested in running for the school board or the county commission or for this board, please pull a petition and run. I think it's very important that we all participate in government. Other than that, I don't have any more comments tonight. Any alderman wish to make a comment? I believe, Mr. Cates, you had a comment you wanted to make.
Yeah, on that live screener, did we ever get that fixed so it wouldn't cut on and off, or is it still intermittent in and out?
What we've done, Nolan Audio Visual says there's nothing wrong with the equipment. We then looked at the internet service for this building. City Hall only had 50, and help me here, 50 megabits of service. Last Tuesday, we installed a new modem and went to 1 gigabit of service, which is 7 times faster with a wider broadband. We're trying it tonight to see if that makes a difference. They're telling me that the speed and the bandwidth that the YouTube streaming takes, that our old system simply couldn't handle. Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what we're looking at.
If that don't work, what's the next step?
In my opinion, get a different system.
Didn't they just buy this one? It's not 2 years old, 3.
I would be welcome to alternatives, but if it's not the equipment and it's not the internet broadband, then, you know, I'm a bit at a loss to why it's not working. It came up very well tonight. We've got a good, I don't know about right now, but when Yvonne brought it up at the beginning of the meeting, we have a very good picture.
Okay.
Why did this, well, why did the city go with the YouTube as opposed to a broadcast channel?
Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't understand you.
Why was the decision made to go to YouTube as opposed to a broadcast through our website?
Last administration, he made that decision.
To answer your
There
earlier
won't-
question, that might be an option, would be to try to broadcast it through our website and not through YouTube, but I don't know.
I know the county goes through YouTube and I watch theirs and they don't have that problem. Several towns are doing it through YouTube and not having a problem, so.
Any other comments?
Yes, good evening. We thank the county mayor for gracing him with his presence on tonight. And most certainly, I feel that things will begin to move a little bit faster for the city of Oakland.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on then to department directors. Any department director have something they wish to bring to the board's attention now? Hearing nothing?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, I'd like to introduce Laura Hodges, our new finance director.
All right, I'm sorry, I apologize, Laura, I forgot you. Please stand and let everybody see you there. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity for the new job, and I look forward to meeting and working with all of you.
Where are you from?
Originally Dothan, Alabama, and I moved here about 4 years ago, and I've been working in Memphis. But everybody knows Dothan. That's the way to the beach.
That's right.
That's your pit stop.
She lives here, though.
No, I know.
Thank you all for the
Alabama.
vote. I appreciate it.
She started
Nice.
Tuesday.
Alabama.
How's it going?
Alabama, that's right. But it's War
Woodland
Eagle,
Chief
if y'all are
Earl
wondering.
in here?
You wish to speak to us?
Yes.
Chief Earl?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Fisher requested your presence.
Oh, he does? Okay. Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
I've heard you guys been moving some things around here lately. You wanna give us an update on what's going on? As far as offices and personnel and people like that?
Well, you know, this building is busting at the seams, and we've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of room for employees, and we got new employees, so we have to shuffle some people around and double some people up in their offices.
You guys got a lot of excess equipment back there. How come we haven't gotten rid of it? I thought we did an excess equipment, get out of the building, get out of the yard and all that stuff. What happened?
You're right, it's time to do that again, we'll probably do that this spring. You're right.
Well, there's not enough office space, so we need some kind of temporary fix, because, it's affecting the employees in this building, not just the police, but everybody in this building.
Is that items on the agenda?
So I would ask y'all to, come up with some kind of fix. Not wait another month and then another month, it has to be dealt with now.
Can we get portable units out here to,
I don't
like,
know.
I have checked into portable units, we're probably looking at $2,000, $2,500 a month for a portable unit.
Is there a plan that what you would put in a portable unit?
Yeah, an idea, I've not reviewed it with the staff, but I have an idea of at least 4 positions would go to a portable unit.
If you, of course, we have the other thing with the county, and I know we're strapped, and I was against not having that here in Oakland, but when we've got people working desks in the courtroom and piled up on top of each other, I mean, it's something that we may have to look at. And the other thing is, maybe we could move that planning and codes into like a portable and free up that space for a whole other department or something over there.
That's an option, but what I did on the mobile office, and you all know what they look like, I asked for cost estimates on one that would hold at least 4 desks. And I've got the detailed price quotes, and this is moving it out here, setting it up, and then moving it away at some point. But it's a monthly fee. I did not look at purchasing one. I looked at just a lease.
yeah, I know for a fact I have been fact that I have been complaining about this for a year now. Asking, we promised these people we were gonna get a new building somewhere, I don't care where, we're gonna renovate the bank building, we're gonna move over to Mr. Welch's place and start building there. We haven't done anything, nothing, and people say, oh, we've done this, we've done that, we haven't done anything. And it's disappointing to the people that work here, that they're strapped working in a courtroom, that they're strapped sitting on top of each other on their own boxes.
Please, let me, if I may.
Sure.
Two things. One is, the person working in the courtroom right now is a combination of two things. We had, however you want to say it, with COVID, where we had a number of employees out. And we were trying to space our employees out a little bit, rather than have 3 or 4 people in the front office. Secondly, this is property tax time. One day, 2 weeks ago, we received over 1,000 property tax bills from one third-party provider. And that was when we moved in here, so we could spread that out and set up an operation to process those property tax receipts within 3 days, and that money be deposited. And I can share with you, Yvonne gave me a report, we deposited over $100,000 a day for 4 straight days, I believe, wasn't it? So, I mean, there was some work efficiency related to that desk being back there right now.
Yeah, but you brought COVID into this. COVID's been going on for 2 years. I mean,
COVID has been going on.
can't be the only reason.
No,
why the
no,
property tax is
that-
fine.
that's not-
But we still got more police officers back there that are, I mean, I hate to see them want to get COVID, and what are we gonna do with there? This place only has so much room.
I agree with that. The other thing.
We need to do something, and we need to do something now. We've been
well,
talking about it for a year.
That's the other thing I would say, sir, with all due respect, while no decisions have been made, I and this board have been discussing options, looking at the situation. It's been on probably a half a dozen of your agendas in the last year, talking about what we might do. You know, we've got to make some hard decisions that involve a lot of money, whether it's remodeling a building, building a building, leasing a mobile office. There's some decisions that need to be made.
I agree, I need to say something. I agree with what he's saying, because they're sitting on top of each other too with COVID. But has anybody asked, we keep talking about, and I keep reading on the internet, on Facebook, 1.2 million to fix that building, 1.2 million to fix it right. Has anybody asked the question what it would cost to tear the building down and then rebuild it?
I can answer the first part of that question. I have talked to 2 contractors. We're looking in the $50,000 to $60,000 range to demolish it, all 7,400 square feet, provided the city addresses the asbestos and the removal of the existing bank vault is an extra cost, because they'll have to move in a ram hole or something like that.
Mayor Taylor's here, and it'd be a great time to ask him what his original proposal was on that Buckley Park Carpenter School when they renovated that, and then what the final cost wound up being, because they didn't know what was in there. So it's no way to know what you're getting to until you dig, but Mayor Taylor could address that right now. It was a significant difference in what y'all originally set out. And I know that's school board, but the county funded.
Talking about the building they actually built.
Yeah, sure. What was the original where it was gonna be? It was,
You called me off
was it
guard.
4? Was it about 4?
Million? No, it was in the 12 range, but we went, I think, Mr. Minor may be able to bring some numbers on that, because he was involved in that.
Well,
But we got into a situation where we had a lot of debris that was buried under an existing school building that we got caught up in.
Yeah, what was hidden in that situation is the old Fayette County High School, rather than being demolished and removed, and Mayor Taylor can get me back on track if I get off, but large portions of that building were literally dumped into underneath the ground. A hole was site, and large portions of the old Fayette County High School were dumped into that hole. And so when the contractors began the site preparation for Buckley Carpenter, they began to unearth the old school that had been dumped. And I think that we went back through the Fayette Falcon and got some photographs of it being done back in the late 70s or early 80s. And that was what caused the cost of that building to go sky high.
Well, and then here, we've got a building that's sitting how far from old railroad bed? And probably if, I mean, you would think that it being the center of town, that this was a place like maybe a railroad stop where things were offloading stuff. I don't know, you never know what the cost is gonna be to tear down until, I mean, you don't know what's under there. You don't know what's under there, and it's.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
If the Board of Aldermen will allow me, over the last 2 weeks or so, I have met with 3 different contractors on site to give me an idea and estimate, not a bid, not a quote, just guidance on what it would cost to remodel that building. I do not have any written reports yet. I'm expecting them soon, 3 different contractors. I have met with 2 demolition companies. Both of them said the same thing. Asbestos has to be addressed, removed from the building before they demolish it. And the vault is a unusual situation. Other than that, they said they could knock that building down relatively easily and take the debris to a demolition landfill such as in Somerville. So there is movement, but I don't have a piece of paper I can hand you and say it's going to cost X. I just don't have that.
There's a couple of problems that I'll discuss with the board. That one of the problems, we always, I was one, why don't we just put a roof on it? Well, I think that the reason why the roof never got put on the good part is because that's not where the problem is. What the problem is where they tied it down on the old part. There's already 3 roofs on that. And when I went up there to look the other day, it was dripping water. And it's dripping from the old, but the old side is running water into the new side. And so that's why you just can't put a roof on the new side and it stop your water problem, because the old side underneath is that water's getting in there and running into the newer side. Well, you say, well, what if we tear the old side down? Well, also I saw the conduit where the electricity wire is running from the old side over to the new side. So no electrician is gonna tear that out of there and not rewire the whole thing. Plus, y'all know if we spend over $50,000 on a project, there has to be an engineer involved. Well, there's not an engineer alive that's gonna allow you to partially wire and not make sure that thing is safe, or no contractor that's gonna sign off on something and be responsible for something like that as well. The only quick fix to that building over there, and I know Jay may get aggravated, but the board asked, what's it cost to get a roof on it? But we're over there, and I was there, we're talking about remodeling, putting offices and this, that, and other. The only quick fix to using that building is finding a way to reroute that water off the old bank side, off the back, or this. If you did it off the front, you'd have to have a gutter system to get rid of water off the front. So if you could reroute that water from the old side off the back, and then you go in there and just utilize what you have now, cleaning it up, mildew, mold, getting rid of that, cleaning it up, putting carpet down, changing lights, something that would be under $50,000 where you didn't have to have an engineer, you would have space that you could utilize. Would it be perfect for us? No. But then you could have some projects like, for the year, okay, first 6 months, we're gonna put 2 offices in this room. and do some remodeling in, but you have space over there we could utilize now with carpet stuff. It's not gonna be ideal. It's not gonna be ideal, but what we're doing is hurting right here. Bad. We're hurting for space, and it is affecting the morale of the employees. And I'm sure that you see that every day. But this is, Mr. Fisher, you're not wrong.
No,
You're not wrong.
I've been complaining about this
It's-
for a year. Tear it down, start from the beginning, and I know about Buckley, that what they did was end up unearthing another tomb, is what they did. Well, we don't know what's under there. Well, then, let's get going, but we should have been doing this a year ago, and then we're still kicking this ball. And I guarantee today, we're gonna kick it another month, because we're not gonna meet for 1 month at a time. But I've been complaining about this going, these people were on top of each other, and we're still talking about, we need a roof, we need a, no, tear it down. I don't know how to yell this, because nobody's hearing it.
I think we just heard you.
I hope so, but I guarantee we're not gonna do anything until next month.
Okay, I'm gonna surprise you.
Surprise me.
Mr. Johnson, I anticipate we'll get another report from the latest contractor in the next week or so.
I do, yes.
Is it possible that we could call a work session sometime in the first part of February, as soon as we get that? And for this sole purpose of getting direction on what we're gonna do
Yes,
for space?
yes.
Could I ask one more question?
Yes, Mr. Tate?
Is it a builder in the audience anywhere? Do we have a builder or contractor here?
I don't see one.
What does it cost per square foot to build something now? Anybody know?
Commercial,
It changes every day.
300.
It changes every day.
Commercial, $300.
What you got, as far as materials go, so there's no way to pinpoint. When you get a, invoice saying this is what it's gonna cost you, and 9 times out of 10, most contractors now, they'll have it at the bottom of that invoice saying, these prices are good to close the business today.
All right, I appreciate the comment, Mr. Case, it's time to move on now. Appreciate your time and your diligence. All right, moving on here, where are we at?
Thank you, chief.
Town manager
All
report.
right, we're through with any other department director, need anything, have any comments tonight? Okay, moving on, Mr. Johnson.
I received notification, beginning of the week, that our 2021 multimodal application to TDOT for improvements to 194 South was not selected for funding.
That was a sidewalk project, am I correct?
That was a try.
We tried, that was a sidewalk and a center turn lane there in front of the post office. I have already had an email exchange with TDOT on what we could do to improve it for next year.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Moving on, then, gentlemen, we have a consent agenda. I'll take a motion on the consent agenda when you're ready.
Make a motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Fisher to accept the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Vice Mayor Sutton. All in favor? Any opposed? Moving on. Okay, need to open the public hearing now.
On the consent agenda, should we, is it posted in here? Do these people have a copy of it, or should we at least go over it? I mean, we're approving something, they have no idea what we're approving if they don't have a copy of it.
Well, that's why it's, the agenda has to be mean, certainly if you want, you know, you can read the consent agenda and ask any board member if he or she wants to have a particular item on the consent agenda removed for discussion.
He's asking, is the people out there don't know, they don't get all of what we get, and sometimes they don't understand what's it all about, a dump truck, what about a dump truck? Well, we got the information about the dump truck, and they're going, what are they talking about, a dump truck, didn't we just hire a
I
contractor?
know it
to
saves
do our
us
track?"
time, but I feel like we should at least tell the citizens what we approved, and which is, I mean,
Good idea.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what a consent agenda was until we changed it to a consent agenda. But basically what it is you put a group of things on here to save time, stuff that's non-controversial, that probably wouldn't anybody, have any objections to. I know nobody'd have one about a boom truck to pick up, solid waste in front of houses. I know that nobody would object to that. For message boards, asphalt roller to fix roads, I don't think anybody in Oakland would object to that. Mr. Fisher mentioned you the used dump truck. Subdivision development agreement with Carrington Estates, Phase 1. Approving addendum to Burton Place subdivision, contract section D. And approving addendum number 1 to Burton Place subdivision, contract E. So those were the things that we just approved on the consent agenda.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, certainly if anything that I anticipate will generate discussion or well, debate, I wouldn't put on a consent agenda. I try to keep it to be, as was said, routine, non-controversial
But they
items.
still don't know what we're agreeing to.
Well, you know, people are getting upset, I'm not speaking good or bad about any builder or developer in this town, but it seems like they feel like they're misinformed sometimes about who's doing what and what subdivision and where it's at, and I just wanna be as transparent as possible. I don't have a problem with the consent agenda, I just think we merely ought to openly say what we're voting to approve.
So when we open one up, can you read all the items before we
Certainly,
go through it?
certainly.
Please.
And of course, any board member has, an absolute right to request that an item be removed from the consent.
It's stated right here.
Yeah, we're good on that.
Okay, we'll read everything on the consent agenda if that's what the board wishes. Did I have a motion to approve this?
Yeah, in a second.
Motion that these mics, something wrong with these mics.
Okay, let's approve this. Get this approved first. and
Well, I
we'll
can't
worry
hear
about
it when I hear reverbs.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, moving on.
I did get a message from a citizen that they're listening, watching the meeting, and everything is working really well.
Well, that's good.
Harvey, would you check, is Mr. Hahn's microphone off? Make sure it's off, please.
Yes, it's off.
Okay, I thought maybe it was picking up.
Okay. All right, moving on to the public hearing. I now declare the public hearing open on ordinance 2125, revising the water tap fee for new development. Does anybody wish to speak on that? Okay, Ms. Hahn, Ms. Hummer?
Surprise.
Debbie Hummel, The Gardens. Also in the same email that Debbie Captain and I sent out to everyone, we also thought that the last discussion that we had, everyone had, about that fee, that I think people think approving on the first reading go up to $2,500. I think that it should go up to $3,000. Now, a lot of people say, well, we're gonna lose development, they're gonna say, well, I'm not gonna do that, I'm just gonna walk away. And, forget it, but I think we need to move it up.
Ms. Hummel, thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Do we have a copy of that on here?
Yes, sir. It should be directly behind the Burton Place subdivision agreements. It should be. 2125.
So those ordinances, so the first reading was passed in,
No, it's before the,
21.
no, it's the top of the page, it's before that.
In, December the 16th.
Wait, one more. It should be behind that.
Was it 21, 25?
Okay. Twenty-one, twenty-five's not there?
I didn't see it.
You have a copy of it. Does everybody else have a copy?
20, 25,
Okay.
21, 25.
Was there any discussions on finding out what other like-sized places are charging for this?
Not on development fees, no, sir.
This is a fee that's not gonna affect the residents, it's gonna affect the developers that's getting the land ready for build, right?
This is paid at the time a building permit is pulled. It would go from 2,000 to 2,500. And that money is for capital improvements related to growth. It is not, as you say, for operational expenses. It's tied to capital needs related to growth. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I can sit here tonight and say the 2,500, the $500 increase is tied back in a general statement to the 5-year capital outlay plan that you approved at your last meeting. As we go forward with additional capital outlay notes, or capital outlay needs in the future years, then yes, this probably will need to be raised. But I don't necessarily, I could not sit here and tell you that we need to raise it tonight. But
When was the last time this was raised?
2005,
When?
2005,
16 years ago. 17.
If we're gonna do it-
Has gone up since then?
no.
It's gone up since then?
No, it's been $2,000
So
for,
prices have gone up since then.
they might have,
We're
yes.
still living in the 2005, huh?
If it's any doubt, we're gonna have to do it again later, won't you just do it all at one time?
3,000.
I think we need to be able to say how we're going to use the money. And,
Put it toward the sewer plant.
no, this is water,
water.
sorry.
So,
The other thing, remember, back in December, you raised the sewer tap fee from 2,500 to 3,100. So what these two actions combined do is they've added $1,100. If this is approved, it's added $1,100 to the cost of a new home in Oakland, as it's written now.
Okay.
it's
Because-
a 25% increase. Of course, you know the salaries of all those people have went up
Yeah.
3% a year since '05. And then we also give some bigger raises than that to water department employees, because we had some over there making $10, $11 an hour. And now the new minimum is 15. But I'm like y'all. I mean, I don't wanna raise it now and raise it again.
I don't either.
But if you feel like this is sufficient, I think what Mr. Johnson's saying is it's okay to raise it, but, what are you gonna use the money for when you do? And is it to cover cost, I guess, is
Well,
what I
it's
guess.
to cover capital cost.
With everything's coming down, we're gonna need capital.
Yes, but what you were able to do, and if you allow me, I'll flip over to sewer for a minute. We're doing phase 1 of the sewer plant through this money that had been accumulated. This will give us money to accumulate to do work at the water plant and in the water system related to growth. If you recall, phase one was all new equipment at the wastewater treatment plant that would handle the expanded plant. And that, it was approximately $600,000, and we're using our accumulated reserves to pay for that.
Can we go ahead and raise it to 3,000?
Make a
We don't
motion.
have to do this for another 15 years?
No, no, that, if, I don't think it's in here. This is something that should be looked at every 2 or 3 years without question.
Well, that's gonna make some people mad. Every 2 to 3 years, we're gonna keep raising rates.
Well, we hadn't scared off any builders yet, I can tell you
haven't
that.
scared them off? I understand that. We haven't scared
The other thing,
builders off yet.
I really think it's important to be able to say, this is the plan on how we're going to spend this money.
Can we table this and then come up with a plan?
We have a plan.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can add more to it.
I think you're saying that you've put together and you think this is what it should be then.
For right now, yes. Yeah, there's, okay.
Mr. Ellis, do you agree or disagree or?
I think for now it's sufficient, but again, you have to make a decision. We're gonna look at it again next year or 2 years, so
That gets annoying.
I understand having to justify, where it's going. So it's strictly.
It's a 25% increase, y'all, is what it is. It's a 25% increase.
And all they're gonna do is pass on to somebody else. Over 30 years.
Or you're gonna eat into their profit, one of the two, and then,
Now, this is a perfect world, what I'm about to say, but, and we know that doesn't exist. But let's take 2 years and address the capital needs that we've identified right now and pay for them. And in 2 to 3 years, sit down, do another 5-year plan and review this in conjunction with it. And for example, Harvey, I don't believe the west side water tank was in the 5-year plan, was it?
It was in the 5th year.
In the 5th year.
so you're looking at about $100,000, right? That it's gonna raise,
Yes,
A
yes.
year.
A year, yes,
approximately.
approximately, yes.
And in 5 years, how much that west side water tank gonna cost?
Oh,
Roughly.
when we looked at it originally, 7, 8, 10 years ago, it was 1.4 million.
I say we raise it up to 3,000 now.
Is that your
Stop
motion?
nickel and diming them.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Have a motion from Mr. Fisher to raise the fee to 3,000. Do I have a second?
You hadn't closed the public hearing.
Right.
I haven't. Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Duncan. I get sidetracked with all this talk. Having no other comment, I'll close the public hearing. I'll now take a motion from the floor. Mr. Fisher,
We have a motion on the
I'll
floor?
make a motion that, we raise it to 3,000.
have a motion from Mr. Fisher to raise the fee to 3,000. Do I have a second? Motion died for lack of a second. Entertain another motion.
They complain about bringing it to 3,000, and when the motion's made, nothing happens. Hilarious, people, hilarious.
Have a motion.
Well, my problem, Mr. Fisher, is you got a man that's sitting in a position that's made the recommendation, it's hard to do so, and you got a public works director out there that thinks this is sufficient, and
For the time,
I don't feel like I've done enough research or got enough information to go against the experts that's recommended it. It's not going against you, it's going with the people that we hired to rely on, and so it's not easy up here. I'm not saying you're wrong about the 3,000, but I am saying this is already a 25% increase at one time. And I mean,
Are you making a motion, Vice Mayor?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2125.
My second.
Have a second from Mr. Duncan. All in favor? Any opposed?
yes.
One opposed. Mr. Fisher opposed it. All right, moving on. 2126. We hear a motion to hear ordinance 2126, first reading.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Duncan, do I have a second? Have a second from Mr. Fisher, all in favor? All right, Mr. J.
As you all know, currently the city, the city allows an adjustment for 4 months during the summer with a maximum sewer bill of $18 a month. This would repeal that limitation.
Do we know how much money this would capture?
One estimate was 60,000, I believe.
So we're looking at a $17 million project, and this is gonna help us out to the tune of 60,000. I'm back and forth on this, and Ms. Hummel, I did answer her email. I'll try to summarize basically what I said. I've had calls from other residents. I look at this because I know that I'm somebody that has an advantage by this. And when I say that, I have a pool in my yard. I water my lawn. So this benefits a citizen like me. It benefits. So I have a hard time not being for something that I benefit from. So therefore, I saw it, talked to Mr. Ellis about low-hanging fruit, but on the other hand, I look at it, is when people water their lawns, they're not paying for sewage. No. They're not sending that water to the plant to be treated. So why should they have to pay for that? So this is one of those deals that I have trouble, because if it benefits me, get rid of it, because I'll pay my bill. But these other citizens are upset. I know, Frank, I brought you to the attention of one of them that was been a friend of yours for years. And I mean, he's very outspoken about it. But if we're trying to charge people for something they didn't use by doing away with it. Now, like Ms. Hummel said, the cap, is it too cheap? Probably so. Probably so.
Probably so.
So maybe we look at the cap, and that cap's for everybody. But here's the thing, if you do away with it and somebody has a leak, then that citizen would still have the right. Or if I filled up my pool, could I come up here and get an adjustment? Or if I had to water my lawn in July, how would that work?
I could stand corrected, but I believe the only adjustments we allow now are for a leak that we can.
I'd asked for this 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
What other towns were paying, but the way it was wrote up, and I got with Mr. Ellis before the meeting and Vice Mayor Sutton, and it's hard to make out the way this is written up. And I was talking to Mr. Ellis, and I don't know about Mr. Sutton, but to me, I think we need a workshop on this to break this down and find out exactly what everybody's paying and see which route that we need to go. Cause I'm got real bad mix of feelings about the way we're talking about going. If we can raise the sewer or do something equal to everybody, and then maybe give part of it a break some which way, that I might could go for. But right now, I don't understand the way this is broke down. Mr. Ellis didn't either, so.
How much is an extra meter? If I had another meter put in my yard, how much would that cost me?
We'll do an irrigation meter for $500, and that is put into the system, and water only, no wastewater bill to you.
And then you would pay the water usage. Wouldn't pay another, so,
Is it year-round water usage or just summer?
year-round?
Whatever goes through it, whatever goes through it.
Yeah, you'll get a minimal bill during the winter if you cut it off, if you use it for irrigation, but there's no wastewater added to that.
So you do get a minimum bill?
Yes.
But I'm just confused over this, and it's hard for me to sit here and vote on something I don't understand.
One thing, if I can, about this rate comparison, which you just touched on, is the different methods that all these cities use. We have a base of 3,000. Moscow has a base of 2,000.
Yeah, I saw that.
Atoka has a base of 1,000. we've got a couple city here that have a base, that doesn't even relate back to usage. It's just a base fee. I know what you're asking, but it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison. And also on the sewer, it would depend a lot on what type of process you have. If you have a lagoon system, it's less expensive to operate than if you have an aerated sewer system like we have. Patoka has step. So I know what you're asking for, and we probably be glad to have a work session on it. But an apples to apples comparison is difficult.
But like, but are we better off, I mean, are we gonna sit here and do 100 things to get the quick fix? Or are we gonna sit down and look at the whole thing and come up with a plan of what we'd need to pay for this system? Because we really don't know
That's what we need to do.
right now. So
Well-
instead of just taking jabs, you know, maybe take some time on it and take a knockout punch on it.
The board, I think October, November, you authorized a rate study by TAUD, and we'll probably get that this spring sometime.
But according to that sheet, we allow the highest amount of water, 1,000 gallons over everybody I saw on the list.
That's
At
correct.
our base price.
That's correct.
Where,
That
you know,
should
a
be
lot of people
changed.
have 1,000 for a base price, we've got 3,000 gallons as a base price.
So could there
So-
be some way we could sit down and have a workshop on this and break it down to which way we actually need to go and go that direction?
We can, but I'm sorry, but I would, those are different questions. The ordinance is about a cap on sewer usage. This information that you requested we provided is about water and sewer rates in general. They're different questions.
Hey, it's only 3-4 months a year you're talking about though, Mr. J.
Oh, I agree. No,
I'm not, you can't compare apples to apples on that, but you can on the 4 months a year. It's gotta be some way you can come up with something rather than just cut it completely out.
What's the base on wastewater,
I don't know.
on your sewage bill? Same
Same
as
as
water,
water.
so it's 3,000 gallons.
But maybe it's some other way we could change this and look at it to see what other direction we might could go with it. That's all I'm saying. It's hard to vote on something that you don't understand.
I would like to look at the whole project to see what's gonna pay to fund the project, and I don't wanna
I make a
come
motion.
in here raising stuff, you know, frequently to do it. I would rather look at it and say, hey, what have we gotta have? What's gonna pay for it? And do that one time.
May I? Something very important we gotta talk about real quick. We have, by state law, we have to operate our water and sewer system at break-even basis. That's an operating cost, what you're talking about here. What you're talking about is the capital cost, which is additional. We've got to look at that, yes. But as Mr. Cates said, we've got to make sure our operating costs are paying our operating expenses, our revenue.
Well, let me ask you this question. And it's something I already know the answer to, but I'll just ask you. Is we have money in the bank on our operating costs? Is that amount getting bigger or littler on operating costs?
Oh, it's getting bigger.
It's getting bigger. So how do you raise it if it's already getting bigger at the time on the operating costs? How would you recommend that? And I'm just saying, if it's getting bigger, then you just said, what did you say? It's got by law. I don't know
Break
why you
even.
brought that up. Break even. Well, we're breaking even, right?
Yes, sir, we are.
Without it. Well,
I make a motion we table this till we can find out more information on it again.
Have a motion for Mr. Cates to table, do I have a second? Have a second?
second.
Have a second for Vice Mayor Sutton, all in favor?
Uh,
All right, moving on. B, we took down, C, we took down. We have a motion to hear ordinance 2202 to zone 5.5 acres on Maybank Road as R1A residential, establishing a public hearing date of February 17, 2022.
so moved.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor, to have a second.
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Case, all in favor? Mr. Jay, you comment on this?
The planning commission heard this matter at their meeting earlier this month, and they recommend approval of this request.
Okay.
And you will have the annexation of this property on your February meeting.
Okay.
We have a map with it.
There was a map with the ordinance, yes, sir.
Okay.
It's in the curve on Meebane Road, just past Burton Place, 5.5 acres.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments before we move on? All right, moving on. We'll hear a motion to hear ordinance 2203 to amend the city code title 12, chapter 1 to adopt building codes by reference to establishment. My mistake. Have a motion to approve. Ordinance, first reading of ordinance 2201.
2202.
That, he took that one off, didn't he?
2202.
2202, okay, y'all got me going tonight. Ordinance 2202, do I have a motion to approve, first reading?
So moved.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton, have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Duncan, all in favor?
Uh-huh.
All right, who was that? Moving on, ordinance 2203, do I have a motion here, first reading?
So moved.
Have a motion, have a motion to reading ordinance 2203, do I have a second? Have a second. Mr. Johnson, all in favor? Mr. Johnson?
2203?
Yes, sir.
The city currently has adopted by reference the 2015 building codes. The state requires that our building codes be no more than 7 years old. This would begin the process on first reading to adopt the 2021 edition of the various building codes.
Okay, any comments or questions?
Yeah, when's the, international code for, electrical codes gonna be written up? You got one for North Carolina State Handicap Code of 2001, that's already out of date.
Sir, I believe, and I'll need, is the fire chief out there? We don't enforce the electrical code. That is through the state of Tennessee. So I need to,
So you said it can't be more than,
the electric code is through the state of Tennessee, is it not?
Yes.
So do we adopt that by reference or not?
If you take no action on it, you automatically adopt it. In other words, that's the state code, so if you don't have anything contradictory, then it becomes code.
Would that be on the rest of them too?
Pretty much, just like the fire code, if you don't have a stricter code, then it falls back on what the state code would be.
Mayor? if I
Yes,
can,
sir.
David, our temporary, our building official, I was the one that helped draft up this, and he looked through that. So that part was removed, there was a reason for it, other than the state one, he didn't feel that it needed to be adopted for it. It's the first reading for it, if for some reason it needs to be put in there, it can be put in for the second reading, but we had, David Kelly, he's the one that looked at it, so I have no reason to say that it needs to be, he looked at it to have the list that you've talked about earlier.
Thank you, sir.
That's the best I can shed light on.
What about the plumbing code that's a 15? It's gonna expire this year too.
There was a reason that was being left as it was, but I do not know what it was.
I mean, I'll comment on issues that I know, but ones that I don't, I'm not gonna speculate on. But all I can tell you is it was looked at and that was the list that was presented to be brought forward.
so
So,
the 7 to 8 years arbitrary.
so why would we adopt the 2002 North Carolina State Handicap Code with 2001 amendments?
Yeah.
That is the state.
Yeah, the reason for that one, that code is very specific, it's very good. Most states around there have used it. They were the first that adopted specific requirements for handicap, so everybody's kind of copied that one. That's the reason for that reference.
I guess then my question would be, if these expire in 7 years, you just have to re-adopt it every 7 years?
Yeah.
So so the year really don't mean anything, you're just readopting the code.
Yeah, but they often go in and make minor adjustments at the national level. But if you look back on our code, you'll see references to where this has been done every 6, 7, 8 years. We should have a code book in here.
Some jurisdictions will actually do it every 3 years that you get the new ICC standards for it. They'll just keep adopting as they go through. So it's just up to each jurisdiction to determine which building codes do they want to adopt.
Well, like Mr. Courtney said, I mean, this is the first reading. If there's any problems, we can catch them on the second.
Make a motion to pass first reading.
Have a motion from Mr. Case to accept or pass first reading. Have a second? Have a second from Mr. Fisher. All in favor? No. Ordinance 2204, need a motion to hear to amend the city code of ordinances by creating a new Title II, Chapter 4 business tax, establishing an effective date, establishing a public hearing date of February 17, 2022. Motion.
Make a motion here.
Motion to hear ordinance 2204, Mr. Fisher. Have a second.
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Duncan. Mr. J.
The state law allows for cities and counties to enact a business privilege tax within the state law, which establishes the rates and the definition and the calculations for the business tax. For whatever reason, the town of Oakland has never adopted an ordinance establishing a business tax. Most cities have that ordinance, including Somerville, Moscow, Rossville, other cities in this county. The mayor and I were talking, and we wanted to present this for your consideration on first reading. Again, it adopts the state code calculations for a local business tax.
This could mean some revenue. Have you got any projections?
We haven't because we've never done it, but in the other places I've been, it's been tens of thousands of dollars.
But it isn't gonna be on the businesses, correct?
Yeah.
So how many businesses do we have?
We don't have a business tax, so we,
5,000 businesses. Let's
not
just say-
in
I'm just
Oakland.
saying, not here,
Okay.
just 5,000 businesses.
Okay,
Okay, and it says its minimum is gonna be $22,
okay,
okay? That seems fair.
yes,
It's only $22,
yes.
but that's not the real number that it's gonna be. That's the minimum, correct?
Many local businesses probably will be at the minimum or slightly above, from my experience.
It's,
Well,
it's,
I was gonna say,
it's-
Walmart's not gonna be there.
the business tax that I pay is based on the things that I have in my store that allow me to do my business.
And is it like 1/10 of 1%?
So you have to do an inventory, like how many racks I have, what's the value of those racks, the cash register, the computer, and that's what you pay the business tax on is that's what you have to fill out and you pay
That's
it
to the
on.
county.
So, you know, depending on what equipment somebody has and what they use to do business is what they're gonna owe on business tax, the value of that. And so it's not a base fee.
There's a minimum of $22.
And it's not that much on a business, but you can't get your license. So we probably don't require a business license in Oakland either, do we?
No,
And so that's something that we could do as well. I know we have business in another town and we have to pay that as well. And if you don't pay your business tax, there's no way you can go to the county clerk and get your license until that's paid.
the other thing this would allow us to do, and I'm not talking numbers, I'm talking names, we can cross-reference our business license with our sales tax. And we all know that report we had last fall, the Building and Codes Department only has approved home occupations for, I think it was 43 addresses within the city. We all know that's not right.
If you think that we've only got 43, go to pppdetective.com. pppdetective.com. Put in 38060. And look at the home-based businesses in Oakland and how much money they receive from your nice government.
And we will use this, this, again, this is not attempt to be a moneymaker for the city. It's to balance our revenue. And again, and I'll use a major corporation. They're not paying that in Oakland, but they're paying it in Bartlett. And so they're actually benefiting their shareholders because we're not charging something that everybody else does.
You're paying it in Fayette County.
Yes,
You
sir.
don't know y'all's minimum, do you, Mayor?
Whatever the state tells us to do, it's a sort of state tax, we pass it on to them. We collect it for them, in essence.
Cause it's done through TAP, Department of Revenue. is what
Yes.
it's done at.
This is gonna raise fees for businesses to charge.
You don't know what percentage you get coming back?
I know, it's a very small amount, sort of like Mr. Johnson said, but it's all, and we get it, it's sort of a state shared, send it to national, then they decide how much it will send back to us.
As I recall, and help me here, most businesses pay it in September, but some businesses pay it at other times during the year.
Due in April. Mine's due in April.
Okay, some are due in September.
Mine's due in April. I did my taxes that were due the 20th last night, and I saw where my business tax was due in April.
So what's your suggestion?
Adopt this on first reading.
I'll make a motion to adopt it.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton, do I have a second?
Start off with some money.
Have a second from Mr. Case.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, my comment on it is, since you've now voted, is that we need to get the account on these home businesses and, based on the information you provided me earlier, Vice Mayor Sutton, you convinced me there's a whole lot of them out there we are not talking about.
I encourage everybody to go to pppdetective.com. Put it in your phone. Put in the zip code and look at how many businesses, and then check and see if they're registered as businesses. Check and see if they're on that sales tax report of yours. And if not, report them to the state.
All right. All right, ordinance, do I have a motion to hear first reading of ordinance 2205 to amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 annual budget by creating a special revenue fund, establishing a public hearing date of February 17, 2022.
Make a motion here.
Have a motion from Mr. Case, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Duncan, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. J.
We discussed this at a recent workshop, I believe. When the local option sales tax, the half-cent, was approved by the voters 2 years ago, the board at that time indicated it was to be used for the new park. However, that was never formalized. It's been discussed and all, but it has never been formalized, and the audit does not show that as designated revenue. This ordinance would create a special revenue fund for that half-cent sales tax, and it would be dedicated for funding of the new Parks and Recreation Complex.
The only problem I have with that is what we discussed. You asked me, parks or new parks? And I do not believe the board specified the new parks. I think the board specified Parks and Recreation. Yes.
And it still does.
If you'd like, we can take out the words new and complex and just say Parks and Recreation.
Right.
That's what I promised the people.
Yeah.
I make a motion we pass it
With the amended,
with amended the,
Okay.
not new park, but park and rec.
Have a motion from Mr. Cage to pass this, ordinance 2205 with the amendment stating for Parks and Recreation. Do I have a second?
second.
Have a second from Vice Mayor Sutton. All in favor? All right.
Mayor, could I shared with you, it's not directly related to the ordinance, but through June 30th of this year, we're estimating that half-cent will have generated approximately $1.84 million. And at this point, we've committed $627,700. Your next item will change that number, but that's where we are right now. We have about $1,200 available in that fund right now.
How much?
1,200. Well, I'm sorry, sir, I misspoke.
1.2 million.
1.2 million,
Yeah,
sorry.
I was wondering.
I left a zero off.
A couple of them.
Okay. Past that, moving on to new business. Resolutions. Now, this resolution is gonna require some tinkering with and changes, so we'll deal with it accordingly. Do I have a motion to hear resolution 2211, authorizing a loan pursuant to a loan agreement between the town of Oakland, Tennessee and the Public Building Authority of the city of Clarksville, Tennessee, in the principal amount of not to exceed $6 million, authorized execution, delivery of a loan agreement and other documents related to said loan, providing for the application, the process of said loan, and the payment of such indebtedness, consenting to the assignment of the town's obligation under such loan agreements and certain other matters. Motion to,
So moved.
have a motion from Mr. Duffy, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Vice Mayor Sutton. All right, Mr. J.
To talk in general first, this is a 20-year general obligation bond of the town. We would be borrowing the money through the TML bond fund, as we've talked. The interest rate is 2.41% level debt over the life of the issue. What I wanted to bring up, and I sent you an email about a week ago, based upon the bids we received for the dirt work for phases 1 and 2 at the park, the low bid is just under 5.2 million. Therefore, the resolution was written not to exceed 6 million. The public notice was not to exceed 6 million. If the board so chooses, we could amend that and only borrow, I use only,
How much?
5.2 million. And again, this debt would be repaid through the half-cent sales tax. And at 6 million, it was taking a little less than half of our half-cent sales tax. So we still have money available. As I said, we're bringing in about $850,000 a year on the half-cent. The debt payment on this amount would be about $350 or $360.
About half.
About half of it.
Ms. Fisher.
So, when we asked the people to vote on this half-cent sales tax, how much time and how much money were they saying, we're gonna bring about 800,000, that's wonderful. And how long were we gonna charge this half cent before we said, okay, let's stop? Was it forever?
Yeah.
It's gonna, so the park is gonna get this half cent sales tax until everybody in here is dead. Because you just said, yes, it's gonna be forever.
Well, if you didn't need it anymore, you could always vote to appropriate it somewhere else. But I mean, once you get the park built, it's gonna cost a lot of money. You're gonna have to have manpower and mowers and equipment to maintain that.
Well, the
So
park's
you're still
cost
gonna need
$40 million
funds.
right now, so
But you're still gonna need funds.
when it was voted on, was it told how long we were gonna keep this going for?
I can't answer that question, but
Well,
I can tell you this, if the county comes and passes it, you're gonna lose the other half.
exactly. If Skip Taylor comes to here and says, we're gonna take half your revenue, and it's not only him, it's the commission.
Well, it's not that, it's the voters, it's the
They
voters.
voted on
It
it.
goes around,
It's
down to
nothing.
300,000.
He wouldn't have a
It
vote.
comes on longer debt.
It would actually go to the voters.
Has to go to vote.
And we know that,
It's not that, so just,
but
yeah,
you
just,
are gonna,
so when you say us, just sort of make sure it's elected.
it is. So when we make a motion, we bring it before the voters as well,
That's true.
as you will too. I mean,
Mr. Taylor, I apologize
understand
for
the
my board
nuances.
keep bringing you in our meeting.
I'm just glad I'm so popular now.
Today you are, aren't you? But that is my point.
Okay.
If something happens, that
This,
Well, being's less than half will cover it.
ain't gonna stay there forever.
But being's less than half will cover it, it wouldn't matter if the voters of Fayette County did vote to raise their sales tax. We would still have enough to cover the bond.
well, now, This is for the dirt work for all of Phase 1 and Phase 2. We've still got to come back, whether it's through the half-cent sales tax revenue, a bond issue, grants, we've got to finish out Phases 1 and 2. But this gets all the dirt work, it gets the drainage, it gets the parking lots to grade. Tori, am I leaving out anything on Phase 1 and 2? Retention walls. That's all in this bid. We got 5 bids, and that's the next item. I'm jumping ahead, I'm sorry. We got 5 bids, 3 of them were remarkably close.
They all was pretty close.
They all were pretty close, but the first 3 were really close.
Okay.
So,
Nobody was trying to jack you around on it. It was
Exactly.
bids too close on it.
we bid at the right time, bidding in the winter where they can start work this spring.
If the resolution says up to, would it be a reason to change that? Not to exceed? I mean, why would we borrow more money than we need on it? I mean, it says not to exceed, so we could still pay the low bid of 5.2 without changing the resolution. Is that not correct?
Well, it is, I'm sorry, I guess I'm looking ahead. If you authorize up to 6 million, then that will be what will be shown as our debt limit when we report it to the comptroller's office.
So up to 6 million will be shown
Yes.
as, okay.
Even if we don't draw it down.
Well, I make a motion to pass the resolution with amending the not to exceed 5.2 million.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton to accept passage of the resolution with the amendment not to exceed 5.2 million. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Case. All in favor? Any opposed?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher opposed. Ms. Lonnie. Motion passed. Okay. Moving on. Do I have a motion to hear Resolution 2212, awarding a bid for Oakland Sports Complex Phases 1 and 2 preparation and related improvements, authorizing mayor and town recorder to execute contract.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Duncan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Vice Mayor Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. J.
The lowest and most responsive bid received, and this is base bid plus the ad alternate, was $5,166,575. That is from Wagner Contracting, and our consultant, DT Studios, has indicated they've worked with this firm in the past and had good success. And I believe Vice Mayor Sutton contacted some people as well.
Any comment? Question?
Time frame for this work is 9 months.
Nine months from today or 9 months from when they start?
9 months from the notice to proceed,
Okay.
which, by the time the bonds are presented, contract signed, probably gonna be mid to late February.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2212.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton to approve 2212. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Case. All in favor? Any opposed?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher opposes. Ron? Okay. Do I have a motion to hear resolution 2213, establish a public hearing date of February 17, 2022 for a plan of services for the annexation of 5.5 acres on Maybean Road?
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Vice Mayor Sutton. Have a second.
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Duncan. Mr. J.
Pretty straightforward. This outlines the services the city would provide to that development upon annexation.
And that, just to make sure that the heading of the resolution itself is calling for a public hearing on both the annexation and the plan of services.
Have a motion from Mr. Fisher to accept. Have a second.
Second.
Have a second from Vice Mayor Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Next resolution is Resolution 2214, requesting that the charter of the town of Oakland be amended. Motion to hear.
Make a motion here.
Have a motion from Mr. Case, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Duncan, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Mr. J.
This was discussed, I think, at your December meeting, and the city attorney has prepared this formal resolution to the General Assembly.
Excuse me, I have that in a separate file, because I thought there might be some discussion about, adding any language to this, but what you have is a resolution, that allows the proposed private act that has been drafted, which I think is attached in your resolution, to be submitted to our state representatives for inclusion in our current General Assembly. There had been some comment to me about whether or not there was to be some more.
Yeah, well, my question is, do you feel that Oakland would be required to change their charter to have a municipal school?
And that's what I understood was going to be addressed tonight. So if, to refresh the memory of the board, when we went through the charter amendment process in late 2018 and early 2019, there was initially a section that was to be included within the charter allowing for Oakland to establish its own school system. And ultimately, in fact, the board, I believe, in December of 18, approved the proposed private act that included that provision within it, allowing for the creation of a municipal school district. The board then, I think, after some sort of study was done, I'm not sure how much work was done, but that resolution was then repealed, and a new private act was drafted, removing the municipal school district language from that private act and resubmitted to Representative Gant, and it was with the amended private act that the charter, the new charter was then passed. So, I mean, I've got it all.
Yes, I mean,
That's exactly how it went down.
That's what happened, and we were advised that it would cause some problems in the legislature trying to, with that language in there, that we
I'm not sure we put that language and passed it. I think that was added behind somebody's back on that one.
But anyway, here's what I want to talk about, okay?
Okay.
We're in some some tough times, and education for Oakland kids is a lot different than places I've lived in the past. We have a large number of students that learn at home, and with the county not having a virtual school in place at this time, it seems like a way that Oakland could, if you've talked to some of these people that have it, one of the largest ones in the country. I mean, you can Google them, virtual schools, and like they'll tell you that their numbers are growing rapidly, especially with the pandemic. And so there's a lot of kids that are learning at home, but they're learning from people that's not actually in the education business, a lot of them. So any parent can homeschool their child, but it's potential that we could offer a type of virtual learning to where these kids could get taught by professionals that understand virtual learning and the curriculums. And so it's not where we'd have to build a school right now. I mean, it's not, but we could receive, it's possibly that you receive revenues from this, that you could open a fund up and put in the bank and maybe one day build a school with it, depending on how fast you grow. But the only option our kids have for school at this time in secondary, especially the high school students in Oakland, because that's where most of our students are getting out of the public school system. And the only other option they have is through another company like Gateway or homeschool by their parents. So,
Arlington,
you know,
Germantown.
I'm in no means trying to say that we need to build schools and have Oakland public schools, but I do think that we ought to entertain an option to be able to provide our students with some type of professional curriculum that they're not offered at this time. I have talked to our state legislatures. They do not have any opposition to this, to where that was not the case before, that we were told, but the legislatures have been contacted. They don't see anything wrong with this, but how, does the board feel we should maybe try to offer these kids another, and the way I understand it, it's not gonna be a cost to Oakland if we entertain this. Mr. Brown, you know about this.
Well, what I would tell you, gentlemen, is that we need the option, our students need to have an option other than what they have right now. And Vice Mayor Certain is correct. For the last 16 years, I have run a virtual program in the state of Missouri. And the virtual program is run by certified teachers with a curriculum that meets the state standards. It would give our students an option. There would be no cost to anybody in the city in any manner whatsoever. I think it's something we need to put in our charter and have it there for future generations. They should have the right to choose and not have it. I don't know why it was taken out. I wasn't on the board then, but it needs to be in there.
It was taken out back then because it was due to the desegregation that Fayette County was still under, and I don't think, Ken might know it, but at that time, I don't think we voted to put that school system in there. But when it found out it was in there, it came back to us, and we said, no, just take it back out, because it was holding up the other stuff that we had asked for. And I'm not sure that wasn't put in there once that we had it ready to go by somebody else. That's the best I can remember. If Ken might know too.
Well, the thing we need to do is make sure that we offer every opportunity that we can to our children. But this thing, it's the desegregation order. If we had that virtual program here, it's not just kids from Oakland that could apply to it.
Oh, I understand that.
So we could be a leader in this. And I mean, there could be students from the state of Tennessee, anywhere in the state?
Anywhere in the state of Tennessee. There is currently a virtual program in the state of Tennessee right now run out of over Far East, Polk County. And they run a K-8 program, have had it for a number of years. But there's not a 9 through 12 program in the state. I do know that there's some encouragement that want to be established, and I think we have an opportunity to be a leader here to help give out an education alternative to the citizens of Oakland as well as the state of Tennessee and county of Fayette.
And we don't hear many complaints in elementary, and then you start getting them in junior high. But then high school is where we see our major drop.
A lot of them going to Arlington.
But when they do that, somebody has to take them to Arlington, somebody has to pick them up in Arlington. If we had a program here that was with a professional curriculum, those kids would have an option. And it's no cost. All we're saying is, hey, we may want to create this and get it in our charter. I mean, it's not creating it tonight, it's just putting it in there so we have that ability to give our kids option for better education.
I don't have any objections to that.
So, in anticipation of this discussion tonight, I did go back and check with, Melissa Ashburn, who's the senior legal counsel with MTS, that, helped me through the first process back in 2019. And, of course, state statute says, among many other things, if a municipality seeks to create a city school system, and if the municipality is authorized by its charter. So you have to have a charter provision that allows for the city to create a municipal school district. And so, again, Mr. Cates may be right. I don't recall why this language was in and why it was pulled out.
That's what it was.
Nevertheless, it was in and it was pulled out. If it's in, it doesn't mean that the town would then utilize it or has an obligation to create a system. It's just there to allow the city, if it wishes to proceed to create or to undertake a feasibility study, you've got that charter provision that meets the requirements of the statute. So it's really just, it's.
Giving options.
It just provides you an extra option.
Thank you.
I don't have any objections to go in that route, but that's what happened on the other deal.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2214 with an amendment to allow Oakland to have a municipal school system.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Cates, all in favor? Any opposed?
So let me make sure that I understand. The language that was in the, December 2019 proposed private act, that language is very straightforward. It was prepared by MTS. If I understand it, then I am to then include that language back into the current proposed private act that you have before you tonight and add that as an additional provision. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that reflects the accuracy of my motion.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
may we add 2215 that I requested immediately, just to get covered?
Now, we have E on the COVID.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we've got that
Okay, we
first.
still got, moving on, and you wanna add a G, we have an E and F now.
No, 2215, I think was F.
Okay, 2215, okay. All right. Have a motion, need a motion to hear, I don't have a number on that
You looking at consider,
resolution,
is that for Chickasaw Electric?
No,
No,
this is COVID.
COVID policy, what is
Oh,
it?
I had that one.
There was, I'm sorry, sir, there was, but no.
Okay, we just need to hear it?
Motion
It has to be numbered.
Yeah.
I thought you could, I thought we, since it was an update to our present policy, I was just gonna address it as a policy.
Okay,
And this basically continues our present practices. It does change to, it's a 5-day quarantine if they have no symptoms. That is one of the bigger changes.
you're amending the present policy, the current policy, to go to 5 days
Yes, sir.
leave on for COVID.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
What was the last one, 14?
10.
10?
and that's current national policy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept this policy as amended.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton to accept the policy as amended. Do I have a second? Have a second, Mr. Cates, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. F. There's no policy number on that one either, so.
Resolution 2215.
Resolution 2215, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion here, first reading of resolution 2215, consolidation in support of the Fayette County Broadband Program from Chickasaw?
So moved.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton, have a second. Have a second, Mr. Fisher, all in favor? All right, Mr. J.
After the agenda packet was distributed last week, we received an email from Chickasaw Electric Cooperative. They are applying for funding through the Tennessee Emergency Broadband Grant. It's some of this American Rescue Plan monies that will allow them to extend fiber cable throughout the rural areas in Fayette County. They sent an email out to all the mayors in Fayette County asking that the respective cities endorse their application. I took their recommended resolution and I modified it somewhat and shared it with our town attorney. And you had on the table tonight before you, this resolution simply endorses their application and supports their evaluating the financial feasibility of doing that.
Make a motion to accept.
Have a motion, Mr. Fisher, to accept. Have a second.
And this is gonna be no cost to us. I have a few questions before I vote, if it's
Okay.
okay?
Yes, sir, go
Since
ahead.
there's no second. So rural, is it defined as an area that's not within a municipality? Because we're pretty rural here in Oakland.
No, it would include the entire service area of Chickasaw.
So it would include the residents of Oakland.
Correct.
If I may, where this becomes interesting, Oakland is pretty well served now with broadband capabilities. I won't say every neighborhood, but most of our neighborhoods have that capability. The original ordinance, or the original resolution from Chickasaw had a paragraph in there about funding assistance, and I took that out. We were not provided any detailed information, are they gonna start in the rural areas and work in the cities, or start in cities and work out the rural area? We don't know, and I think as the last paragraph of this resolution points out, they really need to develop a financial model of what's feasible. I mean, the grant is to cover the capital cost of extending the lines. Then you've still got all the operational costs that would be a monthly fee or whatever. So I actually would compliment Chickasaw Electric. I think they're approaching it in a very business-like, conservative manner. The mayor and I did not receive a lot of detailed, in fact, we received no detailed information, just the request.
Just, Mayor, just so.
Yes, sir.
Chickasaw is gonna be applying for a grant, I think they've got like a February something deadline, and it's probably gonna be out in an area of the county that's probably would never be served, so, but I think what they're trying to do is use that as a springboard to sort of put some money toward capital costs that go countywide. I'm sure they'll be applying for other grants as they move forward. The state's gonna come out within the next, I was told next month, 6 weeks maybe, with a similar to the sewer and water grants that we're going through now, a broadband grant that folks can apply for. And I think the caveat is somebody has to sell it, and Chickasaw is working with an entity to be able to do that. But the resolution, at least from the county side, and I haven't seen y'all's, but from the county side, is just basically saying we're a broadband community. We're gonna make it as easy as possible, and right of way is pretty much the only thing that we've got to help with, is that if there's a right of way issue, we give them an answer in 30 days or so. Just make it business as easy as possible. And that's sort of what we're looking for.
Has the county commission adopted a resolution that will be on their agenda?
Maybe Tuesday night.
I'll second Mr. Fisher's motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Fisher, have a second, Vice Mayor Sutton, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, then to consideration of business items. Consideration for the calendar year 2022 goals, Mr. J.
I think the board of aldermen's aware that one of my practice been each year, I ask the departments to outline some goals that they would like to accomplish during the next calendar year. And one of the things we talked about this year was I asked them, while we're talking about calendar 22, look at how what we do this year impacts future years. How do we lay the groundwork for needs in the future? So you have their proposed goals for this year.
question. I really encourage you to take the time to look at some of these. There's a lot of good information about operational ideas, operational issues that.
I guess that's this one here.
Any questions at this point? We'll move on. No questions at all. All right, moving on to B, consideration of proposed agreement with United Soccer for spring 2022 season. Mr. J.
If you'll recall, we had a cooperative venture in the past spring with United Soccer Club. One of my issues, we did not have a written agreement at all. And so, before we begin, anything for this year, I asked, Tori Harris to get with United Soccer Club, and I'd already had an outline of an agreement, and what you have before you is a draft. The city attorney, provided his input in the revisions dated the 19th.
Pretty much it?
Pretty much it.
Can I ask a question first?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Torrey, would you step to the podium, please?
Can I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
Or were you finna ask her a
No,
question?
go ahead, you ask first.
Well, I just, and I know I'm pinching pennies here, but why would we not bring this in front of the board and then get the attorney to look at it? If the board so moved, what if we don't do this, and now we've spent money with the attorney on this?
Our practice, and it can change, our practice is any type of agreement, ordinance, resolution comes before the board has been reviewed by the city attorney.
I can see that on a lot of things, but this, go ahead, Mr. Brown, I've got some questions.
Ms. Torrey, I have a real problem with this ordinance, or with this contract, and I need your help on it. I can see where we need to look at some professional help if we had a huge soccer program like we may have when our park is completed. I do not see a need for this right now. Can you tell me why we need this at this time?
So my kind of primary goal, as I came in, I think everybody's aware of everything that happened in the fall. How that whole transition, that deal was a mess, and the reason that it was a mess is because a piece of paper didn't exist. So I did some research back on the February 1st of 2021, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board met together. That's where United Soccer came up. Parks and Rec Advisory Board voted in that meeting to bring it to this board. On your February 9th, 2021 work session, y'all discussed this, I assume with Amy at the time, I don't know, I didn't work here. Y'all discussed this in your work session. Come your February 18th, 2021 meeting, your regular scheduled meeting, this topic was brought up as part of the director's report, and it was voted on by the board to, I assume, continue with this agreement. A piece of paper was never put in place. So again, I'm not sure how we operated through the spring, because that was, again, before my time. I know as I transferred into the director role for the fall, it was a mess. So my understanding is that this is something that the board wanted before I existed, and if that's the case, I feel that it should be done in a proper contractual form on paper with expectations very clearly written out. And even as far as the financial compensation, you'll see one of the very last lines is failure to meet the obligations, remove our payment obligations.
And what is the compensation the soccer league, the soccer association will get?
Right now, it's set at $12 per registration, which is also the number that was used last spring. There's been a little confusion. We did pay United Soccer last spring. The total was $3,024.
How much?
For the spring. $3,024.
We paid them?
Yes, sir. In the spring, we paid United Soccer $3,024.
The
Why?
town paid United Soccer.
Yes, sir.
Why
And
did we do that?
Where did the fees go when a kid registered?
Again, this is before me, so this is.
I understand
As I'm picking up
that.
the pieces. There were 252 children registered. That
Okay.
number times 12 is 3,024. I confirmed with our accounts with Mr. Josh, that is the number of the check that was written to United Soccer.
Good
Check
Lord.
number 33,787, written on April the 8th of 2000.
What was the total revenue collected?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, how much was it per student or per kid?
Most of them are 75, the youngest age bracket is 50.
Okay, and how many,
I
how
don't
many
have that
how many kids?
I don't have that information.
She don't have it broke down, cause it's different prices for big ones and little ones.
Did you say you gave them 3,000 something, $12 per kid, times how many kids? Came up to 3,000 something dollars?
280.
252 athletes.
So you have 252 kids.
There's different fees on the street.
Yeah, like if they
I've
had
got
multiple
that.
kids.
I'm trying to look at least a round figure.
I can't tell, I looked through the office, I couldn't find information on the registration. Couldn't find registration packets, so I can't give you that number.
What did we get in return for that $12 to them?
Well, there's a couple of different ways that you can look at it, and again, this was well before me.
I understand
We're
that.
not holding you accountable.
I'm not holding you, I'm
so
just
I
asking,
want you
what
to
did we
explain.
get for that $12 a student?
I know that there was a coaches meeting to start the year. I know that there were practice sessions throughout the year. There were essentially mini camps given throughout the year that were provided. I believe he coordinated with the referee organization. He made the game schedule for the spring, and that's
Is there any,
what I know.
excuse me, is there any of that you can't do?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Or you are gonna plan on doing, because this contract says you're liable for all this now.
Well,
So you're still gonna give him $12.
how I have it written out is, as I understand is the original intention of the agreement. I run sports programs, and I do it well. I wanna do it. If I'm gonna get yelled at by a parent, I wanna get yelled at for my work,
That's right.
okay? I'm good at it. That's what I do. So this removes all the administration side of anything from United Soccer. So where United Soccer comes in, and a big reason of bringing it to you today is based on our survey feedback from the fall. Our parents, our community, the people that use this service were split about 50-50 on if they wanted to keep United or if they did not.
They didn't even furnish referees half the games, did they? That we paid to
Well,
get?
hold on,
Didn't we pay to
I
get
was
that?
told something else. I was told that United Soccer had a website. And if a kid wanted to play, they went on that website and they registered and paid their registration fee to United Soccer. Is that not right?
That is accurate for the fall 21 season. So
Fall
the
20, that's the last one we had, right?
The spring 21
Okay, I don't
season-
want to talk about that. I want to talk about the fall.
Okay.
So the fall, every one of these kids paid their fees to that, unless they average of, how many did we have in the fall? 200 and,
Right at 200.
right at 200. And that fee was how much?
Again, 75 for the older ones and then 50 for the younger ones.
Let's just say it was 50, that's 10 grand. And then United Soccer provided for that number of registration fees, they provided uniforms. They bought uniforms.
United Soccer in the fall was 100% them. I striped fields and
I strike fields. I strike fields. They provided uniforms, they provided referees,
schedules.
They're supposed to have.
referees.
they had some clinics,
Yes, sir.
or a clinic,
They had several
several clinics.
In the very beginning.
through the early parts of the season.
And so they received this money. Now, out of this money, they kick back to the town a portion of that money, is that right?
This is where we ran into trouble because we didn't have anything on paper. We received.
So they didn't,
we
hold up, the
received
agreement
$0.
was for them to cut us $12 back for the fees, maintenance of the field, I believe.
I couldn't find that anywhere. I couldn't find that to exist. I don't know what was verbally decided before me.
What did he say? United Soccer.
There was no mention of money coming back to the town.
But you just said it was 100% on them, but yet we had costs on striping fields and paint and things, so it wasn't 100% on them, was it? The town still had skin in the game, but didn't receive any money from this company you're wanting me to sign a contract with to pay them now.
Agreed, administration was 100% on them, we still did do the basic field maintenance, yes, sir. And I agree, I'm in the
And then they didn't provide the referees they said they'd provide either,
That's
did
right.
they? At the games, right? And then when we had rainout games, you had to go out and find referees for them because they didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
I ended up doing a lot of that cleanup work through the fall, but again.
But we didn't get
have-
no money for it with you working. The town pack sheriff's paying you to do their job that they received the money for, and now you're asking me to sign an agreement to go into business with them?
I'm simply asking that if this is what the intent was, is if this is what y'all wanted to do, I request that we do it this way.
Do you want me to enter an agreement with these people right here that reneged on what they were supposed to do last time?
Again, I think it's very important to remember that we use the word supposed to or agreed. There's nothing that says it wasn't agreed.
Were they supposed to
No.
provide referees to our games last year in the fall?
Supposedly.
Do you have a
Because again,
contract that says that?
We do not. We do not have
Can't
any
hold
piece of
somebody
paper where we
accountable.
could say that they did or did not fulfill their obligations.
I
to
make a
us.
motion not to enter into a contract with United
Have a
Soccer.
motion, Vice Mayor Sutton, not to enter into contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Cates. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Ms. Torrey, it's yours.
Were any opposed on that?
No.
I don't think so. I apologize about asking that, Mr. Bishop.
I just didn't hear it.
All right, moving on.
I think I'm still shocked at dealing with that.
Okay. I'll take a motion to enter into executive session.
I got one.
Okay.
If you don't mind. Come over here. Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason's been sitting in this, meeting since the beginning, and he thought that you were gonna call his name during citizens' comments. And I was wondering, is it all right? He's been sitting here waiting to say something all the time. He didn't realize that.
I don't have any objection.
I don't either.
Having no objection, sir, you go right ahead.
Cause I saw him come in when I came in at the start of the meeting.
When I signed that list, I waited for my name to be called, and I went, what?
Oh, okay, yes, sir.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I got a notice the 29th of December, brought it straight here, it said my water bill is late, which I thought I'd paid it, but evidently I didn't. There's a $30 fee on there that said, if I paid this before December the 25th, which is 4 days before I got the notice, that I could save the $30 fee. I came up and said, well, here's what I got today, would you waive that fee for me? They said, no, you have to take that before the board. That's why I'm here.
Mr. J, we need a little enlightenment here.
Can we put this on the next time we meet? Because that would take some,
Discussion, you can't discuss now.
Okay, sir.
Sir, real quick question.
Said on the name.
The late fee is charged after, if the first bill is not paid. Did you not receive?
No, I had it the 29th, which I would've paid it, because I sure wouldn't have, came in
Mail.
4 days later and paid the
I
$30
think it's mail
fee.
is what the problem is.
That's what I'm guessing, but I don't know.
Sir, let me ask you a favor.
Sure,
Would it be possible for you to come by in the morning and see Mr. Johnson?
I'll be glad to.
If you'll come by and see Mr. Johnson in the morning, maybe we can get this solved.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Sir, if I may, it might be better tomorrow afternoon. I'm already booked for tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Could you come by tomorrow afternoon?
sure,
Okay.
I'm retired, I got free.
I'm sorry you had to wait that long, we
Yeah.
apologize.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry you had to wait, sir, but maybe Mr. Johnson can work with you and work it out.
Well, it was interesting seeing how you work, so.
You like the show, huh?
we'll come back anytime.
Come back, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I will now entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Have a motion, Vice Mayor Sutton. Have a second, Fisher. We're now, all in favor? We're in executive session.
Remind me to cut it back on, Mr. Bond.
Do you have your $40 before?
I do,
I
Miss Deborah.
Because I wanna go get.
Hey, and look, Miss Deborah, I don't, but I'll bring it to you tomorrow. Look, you don't take a credit card, do you? I can't believe I didn't put my money in my pocket.
Wait a minute.
Look,
What
I'm
does he
gonna
owe
bring
you?
Yeah, give her $40. And look, I saw on the news where it's a shortage on the new cookies that they.
Well, well, tell you what happened, they were so thinking about the one in.
Yeah.
Oh. They can't
But it's in-
finish anymore. But somehow,
March.
2 days later, they should.
22nd, something like
To
that.
that,
That's good, cause I ordered a box.
yeah, you're good.
But anyway,
Don't you tell my wife I gave you $100.
There's one in August as well.
I do. And I can't believe I didn't put.
So far, it may be 3, 4. I'm reading every one of them.
Cause you hadn't been to Jackson with us. Yeah. Okay, you already pulled your petition.
Hell, you read? You up and run. Yeah, I already did that.
just wanna add, we have a HR person,
Yes.
and, we introduced herself at the dinner, at the
At the luncheon.
luncheon, right.
She's been with us about a month or 6 weeks now. So,
HR.
HR.
Okay? Okay,
Make a motion to adjourn.
have a vote to adjourn, all in favor?
Um,
You are adjourned.
I sure don't feel good.
you turn off your mic.
Thank you. Want some more?
You have a nice evening, young lady.
Thank you, huh?
I do, but I'm cheap. I'll get these cheaper ones. Can't afford the other ones. Frank, stay still.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Stay still.
Damn, I'm sick, man. I don't feel good at all. Huh?
I had a surgery Monday.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I can't.
I can't breathe. It's time